Welcome to The Photography Guy. I'm your host, The Photography Guy. Let's get started here with another great photo show. Hey, welcome back once again to The Photography Guy. I'm your host, Jack, and I'm here to tell you today, we're going to talk a little bit about your camera settings. You know, everybody really wants to take better pictures, and the camera is only half the battle. No matter what kind of camera you buy and how much you actually spend for the camera itself, you're going to find times when the picture's just not what you thought it was going to be. So in this episode, I thought I would talk to you about the camera settings and how to go about controlling the camera. If you get a chance, by all means stop at my website, thephotographyguy.net, and there you can actually sign up for a subscription to thephotographyguy.net. And if you sign up today, even a free subscription, you will get my free white paper. And a white paper is basically just a write-up, basically a sheet or two, and I tell you the 7 tips to better photography. You can't go wrong. As soon as you sign up, you will be issued a link where you can download that paper, and that paper is free for you. So let's go ahead and get started with today's topic that we're talking about here. All digital cameras have a lot of settings on, and the settings tend to get very confusing. I know they did to me when I first bought my first DSLR. I'm like, what are all those letters on top? Why has it got all these different S on here and CL and CH and Q, and what does all that mean? Do I really need to know about all those settings? Well, let me tell you this way. You paid a lot of money for your camera. This camera is the Nikon D600. They run about $1,800 to $1,900. So you put a lot of money into your gear. You want to get the maximum amount of bang for your buck. You want to get those photos that are crisp and that look very professional, because you're here to learn how to be more professional. So today we're going to start off at the top of the list here with the program modes on top. Now there's 4 main modes on a DSLR camera that we're going to talk about as far as this Nikon goes, and these covers all the Nikons. The Canon cameras and your Sony cameras, or whatever other SLR you may have. Now it's an SLR, and we'll talk about cameras another time, but it's because we can remove the lens, and it's a single lens reflex camera. Not so much so you can move the lens, but so when you look through the eyepiece, what I'm looking at is I'm actually seeing it through the lens. So it's a single lens reflex, okay, SLR. Now, with that said, there's some modes on the top, and we get into this talk many times over that you should only shoot in manual mode. Now that would be like only driving your car in reverse. In a car, we realize there's many different gears on the gear shift, but if somebody tells you only drive your car in D, you would never be able to go backwards. Or you would never be able to pull anything up a big hill because you wouldn't be going into low lock or something on your car, so that would be kind of silly. Again, when you buy a camera, you don't only want to shoot on manual. The modes are there to help you and assist you in getting that perfect photograph. Not a snapshot. Now it's different from a snapshot. This is the perfect photograph. Now, the first mode we're going to talk to you about is the P mode, or program mode. Now on a program mode on a camera, and I think on a Canon, if I remember correctly, I think it's PV. I believe that's correct. And you can correct me if I am wrong in the comments, I'm sure, of this video. But in the P mode, what we have is a program mode. This allows me to set things such as ISO setting. I can change my ISO if I want. I cannot change my shutter speed or my aperture. Now the P mode is allowing me to change my aperture settings, so you can change your aperture down. And what the P mode is basically is called the program mode. And when I tell people, it is one step up from the automatic mode. You notice we didn't talk about auto mode. The reason we don't talk about auto mode, that is one place where I ordinarily never put my camera. The only time I do, now there is, a an exception to every rule. The only time I do put my camera on the P mode, I mean on the auto mode, is when my family's together. One time we were at the Statue of Liberty and we're standing in front. We want to get a group picture. So I want to hand my camera to somebody that don't know my camera. They have no idea what a camera is. But they want to use, they know how to use a point and shoot. So they want to look and click the shutter. So I turn it on auto mode and let the camera do all of its functions for it. So basically you're making it a $1,900 point and shoot, or if your camera was $1,200, or some cameras are $3,400. They all have an auto mode, and that would be the only exception why I would use it. In your P mode, program mode, what happens is automatic mode. Let's see if we can get it to work here. You can see that the flash pops up in automatic mode. Everything happens, the flash pops up, it's right because it's sensing everything you're going to need. You're going to need some light. It's going to set the shutter speed, the aperture, and everything for you. In program mode, you can see that I can focus and my flash does not pop up. So the P mode I like to tell people is auto with no flash, basically. Except that you can set your aperture, but it's basically auto with no flash. Just think of it that way. I used to shoot a lot on P mode. When I first got into photography some 20 years ago, you know, we shot just on whatever modes the camera was in. Mostly at that time it was manual. But as the cameras got progressively better, when I got my first DSLR even, I shot in P mode practically all the time because I didn't know any better. Right? We didn't want to dig into the camera. We just wanted to pick it up and start shooting. I've shot a whole wedding in P mode. So it can be done. I'm not telling you it can't be done. You're allowing the camera to do its work for you, and it's going to take its best guess, and it's going to take some really, really nice pictures for you. So the next step up from P mode is the S mode. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken again, on a Canon, I think it's the AV mode. I haven't had a Canon for a while, since I last owned a Digital Rebel. Now in the S mode is shutter speed priority. What shutter speed priority does, it's very simple, right? It allows you to set the shutter speed of your camera, and when you're setting the shutter speed, the camera itself will figure out your aperture. And what's nice about this particular lens I got on here today, this is my 50mm Nikon f1.8 lens. It was my first prime lens. Well, actually, to be honest with you, it's my only prime lens. And it was my first very low f-stop lens, so I can set it at 1.8 and use it in low light. That's what I purchased it for. I shot a lot of basketball games for the kids with this little fixed lens. But it allows the camera to go all the way down to f1.8. Now, if your camera, I received an email just recently and said, Jack, my camera, I was trying to get it down to that f2.8 you showed in one of your videos. But their camera only went to 3.5 because the f-stop, the aperture, is controlled by whatever is on the lens. So if you buy a better lens or more expensive lens, you'll have a lower f-stop or a wider opening of the lens, and it will allow your camera to sense that, because there's sensors in these lenses. And I'll just pull this out. That's all the electronics is in the lenses and on the camera itself. So that's how it senses it. So in shutter priority mode anyway, let's get back to that. You're setting the shutter speed. The camera will figure out the aperture. This is an excellent mode when you're shooting movement. If you're shooting anything fast, we can set a very fast shutter speed. Make sure you have a lot of light, of course. Outside would be preferable to that. If you're shooting something very slow, you want to catch the slow moving water, and we've seen so many of these pictures. They're absolutely gorgeous. You put your camera on a tripod, you set your shutter speed down to a really slow speed. The camera will know what to do with the aperture. It will most likely close it down, because once you leave the shutter speed open longer, you're going to allow more light in. So it's going to close the aperture down, or go to like an f18 or an f12 or f11, and it's going to allow less sunlight in. That is how the shutter speed priority works. The next mode we have is a aperture priority mode. Now what aperture priority mode allows you to do is it allows you to do just that, set the aperture. Again, remember folks, you are very limited with the aperture based on the lens itself. If you have a 3.5 to a 5.6 kit lens that comes with the camera, the lowest aperture you can go to is a 3.5. The highest, or the closed down aperture you can go to, and this is weird, would be whatever the camera is set to. Because the number is just limiting us down. It's not limiting us up, if that makes any sense. It's really confusing, but and it takes a long time to catch on to that. But your camera will go to f/22, even though your lens says 3.5 to 5.6. That's the low range, or the biggest opening that will go is 3.5. The reason lenses cost more, and we'll go into lenses another topic here, another episode, but lenses cost more based on their f-stop, based on how much light they're going to allow in and how fast the lens is. I've found, many people tell you this may not be the case, but I have found that the lower the f-stop, the faster the focus is and the faster the lens is. So that is aperture priority mode. And you can use aperture priority mode anytime, let's say we're going to shoot and we want a very shallow depth of field. So I'll set my camera and I'll drop this down to 1.8, and I'm going to look through my lens and I'm going to change my point of focus, and I take that picture. And when I do, what happens is I can actually start to fade out or blow out, it's called the background. And my shutter speed at that time, did you hear how slow it was? There's very little light in this room right now. I just have one studio light on. Now, the shutter speed is 25. That's probably as fast as we'll get it, because if I raise the aperture, as I raise the aperture up, let's say 4.5, we're down to 4 on the shutter speed. If we go up to 6.3, we're down to 2. So that tells you, when you're indoors, you want to have a low aperture. And there is ways around that, and some of the ways around that we're going to talk about when we go to the manual setting on this camera. We're going to discuss the different variables and how many variables there could be, and I'm going to show you a great way to actually get the best possible picture out of your camera in manual mode, especially portraits. Now, I'd like to thank you very much for watching this episode of The Photography Guy. And if you're watching this live, I don't know if I'm going to play this live or not, but if nothing else, you are watching on YouTube, I want you to go to thephotographyguy.net. And in there is a link to sign up. Remember, you get that free white paper as soon as you sign up. And with your membership, if you go to the VIP section, that's where the next video is going to be, covering the manual mode. And a lot of the other settings on this Nikon camera we're going to be talking about, but we're going to be going into manual mode next. Then we're going to be talking about the S, the CL, the CH, the Q on our Nikon, and it's going to also translate over to your Canon. So once again, go to thephotographyguy.net, click on the VIP, sign up there for a membership, a VIP membership. That's not the free one now, it's paid, but you will see these extra videos, and it's well worth the time and the effort. Thanks so much for watching this episode of thephotographyguy.net. I'm your host, Jack, and I'll talk to you soon, or I'll see you in the VIP section. Bye for now.